As for Brock Purdy, here's the problem. So I've said this is a guy who is, I've always considered myself a political moderate. Lean left somewhat socially, lean to the right physically, depending on what we're talking about. And I feel like I'm in the same position with Brock Purdy. I do not consider myself a Brock Purdy super fan that thinks he's a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. I also do not consider Brock Purdy to be, barely a starting quarterback in the league, as some have put out the idea, as if he's the second coming of his predecessor, Jimmy Garoppolo. I have said from the jump, since the day he took Jimmy's job, when Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a foot injury 2 years ago and Brock Purdy took the job and hasn't given it up since, I've said, this guy's absolutely better than Jimmy G. He moves better. He's a better decision maker. He's more accurate. He's a better fit with the Shanahan system. Frankly, I trust him more in the clutch than I trust Jimmy. The Niners were winning games in part because of Purdy and his contributions. They were winning playoff games in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo. Purdy's the better. Like, anybody that thinks anything I'm about to say, he's Jimmy Garoppolo. No, absolutely not. He's not Jimmy Garoppolo. He's far better than Jimmy. Frankly, most are, because Jimmy's a backup, but different conversation for a different show. But we have to be honest about who he is as a player. And by the way, this isn't even necessarily a bad thing, what I'm going to say. It could be, depending on how the Niners approach it moving forward, but only time will tell that. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge this. In the regular season, Brock Purdy is an objectively awful quarterback. Like, we'll show you the numbers. Awful when playing from behind. Show the stats. That said, by the way, this says in the second half this season. That should say the second half of his career in the regular season. Brock Purdy, 920 yards passing, 2 touchdowns to 10 picks, barely completing 60% of his throws, and a passer rating of 58. Brock Purdy, when trailing, I'll repeat this, when trailing in the second half of games in his career, has a passer rating in the high 50s, well below league average, with if you want to round down, a 1-to-5 touchdown to interception ratio. We have to be honest about that fact. And a part of that is because that this is a player, talented as he may, I shouldn't say talented as he may be, more talented than Garoppolo as he may be, is because notice something I said about Purdy as it relates to Jimmy. Better fit in the Shanahan system, and a better, just in terms of his tangible and frankly intangibles, better than Jimmy G. All I mentioned about Purdy, measurables. Arm strength, accuracy, mobility, poise, all of those he exceeds Jimmy Garoppolo. But they similarly are extremely reliant on the talent around them in a really limiting way for Kyle Shanahan. We can show you, this is Brock Purdy's numbers. I could not believe this stat when I saw it when I was doing prep for the show. This is Brock Purdy with McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, and Trent Williams. When they're all healthy, these are his numbers. They're insane. 29 touchdowns, 3 picks, 266 pass yards per game, completes basically 70% of his throws, a pass rating of 120, and a 13-1 record. That one loss was the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. When I said it the day after, hey, I can't put the game on Purdy. Purdy was fine in that Super Bowl, but that's his one loss with those guys. No shame in that, losing a Super Bowl to the Chiefs. A lot of teams do that. But without, if Brock Purdy is missing, not all of them, any of them, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Trent Williams, these are his numbers. 14 touchdowns, 16 picks, 264 pass yards per game, completes 63% of his throws, pass rating of 84, and has a 4-8 record. We do have to be honest about who this player is. And I think some of what I find a little frustrating with the Purdy dialogue is the first thing I see when that Niners game is over. Kyle Shanahan. Now, for the record, didn't think Kyle Shanahan necessarily had his fastball in this game. I thought Kyle has a really bad tendency to be kind of rigid to his playbook. We've seen that in Super Bowls in the past, even, of course, going back to when he was the OC with the Falcons. They blew that lead to the Patriots, so on and so forth. In that Super Bowl against the Chiefs in 2019. I did not put the Super Bowl on him in 2023. I thought Shanahan coached a brilliant game. I thought he was great in this past Super Bowl against Kansas City. But we do get into a weird spot where the Chiefs are without McCaffrey, who we know is clearly the MVP of this offense. I mean, Shanahan and frankly, the Niners since 2019, losing record without McCaffrey, best team in football in terms of the record with McCaffrey. Last year with Christian, top red zone offense in football. This year with Christian, this year without Christian, bottom 3 in the National Football League in terms of red zone offense. Is that when you're a quarterback in this league, folks, some things just aren't going to go your way. And by the way, I didn't expect Brock Purdy to win that game. I'm not criticizing him for losing to the Chiefs. Guess what? Everybody has since Christmas. Josh Allen's lost him. Lamar Jackson, Burrow, all the good ones. Justin Herbert. Everybody's lost to the Chiefs in the last 10 months. Just don't be the reason you do your team in. He was against Kansas City. He was against the Cardinals with those brutal turnovers, particularly that last one on the final drive of the game. Crap isn't going to go your way as a quarterback in this league. How do you respond? I don't expect Brock to be Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, Allen. But can he be Stroud, Love? Guys that I trust. We've seen, Houston dealing with injuries. Nico Collins, who is apparently like the lifeblood of the Texans offense. Texans still won against Buffalo when he got hurt and almost got the job done in Lambeau with C.J. Stroud playing poorly. Stuff isn't going to go your way in this league. Can you at least keep your team afloat? Frankly, that's what Dak Prescott. Do you see the Steelers defense last night against the Jets? Yeah, Dak played that same Steelers defense and led a game-winning drive with minimal offensive talent and no running game and a bad offensive line with a bad head coach and a beat-up defense. So I think that is what I have become a little bit frustrated with the Chiefs, with the Purdy conversation. Nobody's criticizing him for not winning yesterday against Kansas City. Those decisions in the second half of that game, really throughout the game with the interceptions, all 3 were brutal. One of them might have been a receiver ran the wrong route in his defense, so at least 2 of them were brutal. We tend to see those from Brock in those situations. We do. Again, trailing in the second half of games, Brock Purdy has a passer rating of 58. With all of San Francisco healthy, passer rating of 120. If in games where any of them are out, 84. Not awful. Certainly not a guy that the Niners are probably about to give $60 million to and gut their roster. Be careful what you wish for, San Francisco. If I were them, heck, the Cowboys waited an eternity to pay Dak, who's the only guy keeping their franchise above water with the minimal talent they have there. I'd wait till after the 2025 season unless something drastic changes. Because the reality is for Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk's gone for the year, torn ACL. Deebo Samuel's got freaking pneumonia from what I'm hearing. But Deebo should be back sooner rather than later. So should Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle's still there. Dre Greenlaw should be coming back. And God, the Niners defense desperately needs him. Fred Warner's still awesome. Nick Bosa. The pieces are there. The NFC is certainly the NFC West is right there for the taking. You've got the coach. Things aren't going your well. How will you respond? It's been a damning trend on Purdy, and we'll see if it turns around. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.